everyone. Hi, I am your host. I am Jessica Koch. We are back again with another Profound Professionals. This has been our interview series that we have been featuring industry experts from all over the globe. They help you improve your life, grow your business. And today we have an amazing individual. His name is Ian Clark, and he is the curator of natural health and natural healing. So, welcome, Ian.
Thank you, Jessica. It's a pleasure to be here. It's going to
All
be an
right.
interesting show.
Yes, yes. I am so grateful you who are watching and sharing because you just don't know who is looking. Sometimes people don't share, right? That they have something that they are praying for healing for or trying to find a solution. Been to a million doctors, can't figure it out. Just trying to stay healthy and feel stronger than they did before. I just had a birthday that sun keeps going around. The planet goes around the sun, or the sun goes around the planet. One of those things, and and away we go for another year. And you start to think about, wow, um, let's get going for another one. And Ian said something interesting to me when we met first, and I've actually been repeating it in my head lately. He said we want to just get healthier every day. So I've been saying in my head, there's another author, and I wish I could remember so I could give him the credit, but the saying sort of goes in every day and every way I'm getting healthier and healthier and healthier. He says better and better and better, but I said healthier and healthier, and I love the in every way, because that can mean my mind health, my financial health, my physical health, the health of my cells in my body, and my environment's health, and my relationship health. Just it really covers so many things. So I appreciate you saying that to me, because that's actually stuck.
Very good. Yeah, that's the key performance indicator. So it's a matter of us really taking responsibility for our bodies, and you are the asset, and
Hmm.
your body is your biggest asset because
Hmm.
your body's attached to everything in this living world we live in.
Hmm.
And if you lose that before the time, it's not a good scene. So we want to, stay on the earth at this point because the longer you're here, the more valuable you are to everyone around you.
Hmm.
And you get wiser and you get more experienced, and
Hmm.
therefore you drive more value. And you want to bring that to as many people as possible who are counting on you. And when I was 46 years old, I had a health crisis where my body was going to be taken away from me. I had
Hmm.
a large tumor, I had heart disease and liver malfunction at a young age of 46. I was actually just turning 46 at that time in 2004. So I turned 66 this year, and I'm healthier than I was when I was 21. And so
Wow.
something really major happened in the last 20 years.
Wow. So is that kind of the journey on what led you to being in the health space? Is that incident kind of was that turned the corner, flipped the switch, light bulb came on and said, okay, now got to do something different.
Yeah, that was a major wake up call that it was either live, die, sink, or swim. And
Hmm.
I wanted to live and swim because the alternative was not good. We, at that point, our youngest child was 6 years old, and she is now 26, and she was the youngest of seven. So we ended up with this big family having, we wanted a couple of girls, and we got them. It took 5 boys to get 2 girls. So it was a big responsibility, and I, I couldn't stand to see the idea of me being removed from the scene, and knew that it was things that doctors could not help me with at that time because they were simply offering the same things they had offered my uncles 26 years before that in 1978. And
Hmm.
they both had cancer. They both died the same year in September of 1978. They died 2 days apart. They're my mom's younger brothers, and I looked like one of them. And my oldest brother, Doug, who was a medical doctor for 30 years, um, happily told me that it was genetic predisposition and you better do everything the doctors say because if you don't, then you could die even faster. And so I was like not happy with any of that news. I didn't want to hear about genetics. And I had this very strong suspicion that I was the problem. And as it turns out, I was definitely the problem. And so it just took me time to learn, how that looked. And I was very fortunate to meet people in that first 3-year period who were able to tell me a lot of the root cause problems of what I had going on and actually how to fix them. Because everybody could tell you what's wrong, very
Mhm.
few people can tell you what to do. And I had to do things myself because otherwise I would give my health up to the medical profession, which
Mhm.
is a lot of people do, and they save people's lives all the time. So I'm not against them. I
Mhm.
just didn't like the options they were offering me to
Mhm.
cut out the tumor and to do all the things that they were going to do. Fortunately for me, the tumor was right at the bottom of my abdomen, between my legs. It was around all the reproductive organ tubing, and I couldn't stand the idea of somebody cutting me down there,
Mhm.
even under general anesthetic. And I thought there must be something. As it turned out, it was simply a series of fungal infections, heavy metals, estrogen overload, yeast overgrowth, and a whole bunch of bacterial problems that culminated to a tumor that the body forms to try to protect you.
Mm.
And I simply learned how to detoxify. It took 7 years to have that tumor dissolved out of my body. My body just simply didn't need it anymore, and it dissolved out. So in 2011, it was gone for good. And at that point, when I realized I was in a very good health, considering the medical profession measuring, I thought, well, how healthy can we get? And the answer is healthier every single day. And, most people go, oh, it's good enough. Well, with me, I just thought, let's do an experiment. Let's see if there's other things we can do and learn from and
Mhm.
experience physically, because in the physical world, seeing is believing.
Mhm.
And I can't fake it. I either
Mhm.
have a healthy body or I don't. And now I do. And so that 20-year period was a very interesting run. And now it's getting quite a lot of fun because I learned about some health products in 2006, 2007 that no one knew about. It was all out of Europe. And I started to bring it into Canada to start with. Canadians didn't seem very interested. I went down to California and there were a bunch of people down there who were very interested.
Mhm.
And we ended up generating around $100 million in revenue as a result of that. A small company started, and we were able to have about $40 million of that 100 million available for reinvesting into research. And
Mhm.
it was this whole thing where we never had money flow like that. And it sounds like
Mhm.
a lot, but it really isn't.
Mm-mm.
Because when you're generating for a company and you're doing research, it
Mhm.
it eats it up pretty fast. But what happened was I woke up one day when we had a few $1 million had already come in, and I thought, well, whose money is that actually? I knew it wasn't mine, and I thought, well, maybe it's the company's money because the company made products and then it sold to people and people give us the money, right? But
Mhm.
that's actually not true. The money that we had in our possession was the people's money who were investing in themselves, buying products from us, and
Mhm.
they were trusting us to give them something of greater value than their money. And when I realized that, I thought, well, I'm going to use those people's money, our customers' money, to invest for them into further research to learn better ways of getting even healthier. And that's what we're doing right to this day.
That's really cool. That's really cool. So, talk to us about the kind of solutions your company has for getting healthier every day.
Well, thankfully, I would not have to go back and redo most of the things that I did then, because with the limited amount of knowledge, I had to scramble because I had a body that was dying.
Mhm.
And so I pulled every stop. I did anything that I was shown.
Mhm.
It was kind of a desperate time. But as time went on, I learned more and more about how to deal with those things quickly. So if I were to go back to myself in 2004 right now, it would be maybe 6 months, maybe 7, 8 months, not long, not
Mhm.
7 years. It
Right.
would not cost very much money. So what we have now is the knowledge. First of all, the most important thing is the knowledge of how each person can very quickly get themselves into a healthy condition. And it doesn't cost very much time, effort, energy, or money either. And so we
Mhm.
have functional foundational nutrients that not only cleanse the body, but also nourish you at the same time. So you're
Mm,
actually tearing things down and rebuilding simultaneously to get
mm.
rid of all the things that are in. And I found out that you just do mathematics on the body. You look at
Isn't
your
that
body.
have a term? When you go, I know when you do intermittent fasting, there's a point in the fast where your body begins to do just kind of what you're talking about, where it either decides to flush out or recycle and reuse, almost like a recycling center, cells and things that it wasn't. And it has the ability and capacity to do that because your body's at rest from digestion in that intermittent fast space. I think it's called, like, I'm gonna not sound as smart as my glasses look, but is it like apophagy or there's a term for it, and
Yeah, it's
I
autophagy.
autophagy.
Autophagy. Yep.
I'm getting close. Hey, go
Yep.
Jesse.
Yeah. Some people call it autophagy.
Okay, well,
It's a different way to pronounce it.
hopefully I didn't pronounce it too terribly, but um, yeah. So is it similar to that kind of idea?
Yeah, that's a part of it. Definitely, intermittent fasting is a very beneficial thing to do for your body. At around 15 hours of having no food,
Hmm.
your body goes into human growth hormone production.
Mm.
And those human growth hormones are, of course, very, very
Oh.
effective at doing DNA repair.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
there's many other things that happen with that. The most important thing, though, is to make sure you're fueling your body with clean fuel
Mm.
that does not continually contaminate your body.
Mhm.
And you have to watch your blood system because your blood, you only have 5 liters of blood in your entire body. And in your blood is your immune system.
Mm.
People say immune is in the gut. Well, that's just not correct. Uh, your gut affects the immune system, but it is not your immune system. You can imagine if your immune system has to work, it has to go to every cell in your body 24 hours a day.
Mhm.
And that's the only thing that does that is your blood. You pump 5 liters of blood every minute. The entire volume of your blood pumps through your entire body. You pump 7,600 liters of blood a day, and you breathe 11,000 liters of blood every day. So you're breathing in oxygen, but you're also breathing in pollutants, which contaminate you over time.
Mhm.
That's the main problem. So I
Mhm.
found out how to produce much more clean blood than the normal person by simply consuming the raw material that comes from the ocean to give your body that element that it needs to create new plasma and to have really high quality blood ongoing.
Now, does this help actually also, potentially, I know we can only speak in possibilities,
Mhm.
with medical stuff, just to be, on the safe side. And for the non-disclaimer here, I always say, as tongue in cheek, but really truthfully, the Italian mother of seven. But I'm not your mama, your doctor, your financial planner. I'm not giving you legal or medical advice, nor is this show. So don't write us later and tell us that we're wrong, or go try something and come back to try to get us later because we said take all of this information just as informational, interesting things to research further on your own with your own doctors, or directly one on one with Ian, or however you decide to proceed. So that'll be our medical disclaimer. But I wanted to ask if that healthier and cleaner blood potentially, one of the things my goal is to lower my blood pressure. I'm not on blood pressure medicine and now, but I know that it could definitely be at a better numbers, and I don't want to head that direction. I certainly don't want to take any pharmaceuticals if I can ever help it. So, is that something that you've seen or is possible, potentially? Maybe all the right
Mhm.
terms.
Right. Yeah. And we don't make any medical claims at all because we don't
Right.
actually have to. What happens with the human body is your body knows how to get healthy, but
Hmm.
you are responsible to support that.
Hmm.
In people who have high blood pressure, for example, that happens as you get older,
Hmm.
but it actually has nothing to do with age. It
Hmm.
has to do with what you're doing every day long enough.
Hmm.
So if you think about the air you breathe, it's full of all kinds of very unfriendly things Like in the United States alone, every year, 10 billion pounds of tire dust is released into the atmosphere a mile and a half above every highway. That's based
Mm,
on the tire sales and the
mm,
thickness of the tread and how much that weighs. And
mhm,
there's 18 tires in every truck. You don't see any rubber on the road anywhere. It's in the air above all the vehicles.
mhm,
And they took samples with helicopters and found it a mile and a half above before they ran out of tire dust. Well, tires are
mhm,
made of rubber, cotton, epoxies, resins, metals,
mhm,
plastics, and chemicals.
mhm,
Things that you don't want in your body, but you have no choice. You are breathing them. And
mhm,
that goes slowly but surely every second of the day into all of your tissue. And the filter, your kidneys and liver, they cannot keep up with that kind of volume. And that's just one thing. There are more than 1,000 items in the air that you can't see, taste, or smell because they're too small and they
mhm,
float. So that goes into your arteries, your veins, and your capillaries. You have muscle walls in your arteries and your veins, for example. And when they
mhm,
get embedded with all this stuff you're breathing, they get stiff and hard the longer
mhm,
you breathe. And that causes blood pressure because your blood is going through a more stiffened cardiovascular system. So I
mhm,
had a situation where my blood pressure was normal and I thought I was very good, all good and healthy. At 64 years old, I was only at 115 over 65 was my
mhm,
resting blood pressure, which is actually a good number, like an athlete.
mhm,
But as soon as I started drinking the sea minerals in water, I noticed my blood pressure began to go up. And my blood pressure went up for about 4 months, which would be considered high blood pressure. But I knew there was something to that because now I'm producing more blood. And I found out that, yes, I had hypertension. So I continued to do that for just every single day, kept right on going. At the 7 month point, my blood pressure was back into the normal range. So
mhm,
people say, well, if you take salt at that volume, I was putting 5 grams of salt into every liter of water. And a liter is like a quart, one
mhm,
teaspoon of salt into a quart of water, and drinking 3 quarts a day. And that made me produce lots more blood. Well, the clean blood that I was producing slowly started to wash all those debris particles out of my muscular walls of my cardiovascular system. And I went back to a healthy, normal blood pressure within 7, 8 months. So I thought, oh, that's interesting. Of course, everybody would blame the salt, but the salt wasn't the problem. The salt was the solution because now I'm producing so much more clean blood and my body cleaned itself out entirely. Within a year, I was walking around in a very, very different body than I had the year before because my enlarged prostate went away. That was caused by all the stuff I've been breathing. I had my liver and kidney function went right back to 100%. Most 60-year-olds, even not even as old as I was, are down at 35% average in North America with their kidney function because they're plugged up. My kidney function was 100% measurable right now. And all my lungs, I coughed out. You would have thought that I was sick, and I never got sick the whole time. I had no fever, I had no infections, and yet I coughed very large amounts of white glue, had no flavor, no color, and it was coming out of my bronchioles, out of my lungs ultimately. It would get stuck in my bronchioles, get in my throat, and I'd have to cough it out for an entire month. And I
mm,
felt so much bigger lung capacity after that. And I thought, okay, that took care of that. No, that wasn't the case. A month later, I started coughing again for an entire month, for the ninth month of that. And then it had just went away and has never come back. But it was
mm,
amazing because now I have my lungs are like, I have this huge expansion in my lungs, and all that stuff I had breathed in that got stuck in my lungs had all come out. And I think it's all gone now. But it's this cleansing process. I would have never dreamed that something like that would happen. I didn't expect that to happen, but it did. And so I became the ultimate experiment. And my wife went through the same thing. She started drinking the salt water and her blood pressure went up very high. And then after about 8 months, it came back down to normal. Well, any normal person would go to the doctor right away and say, oh, look at my blood pressure. And the doctor would say, well, what are you doing? Well, I'm drinking salt water. Oh, well, salt causes high blood pressure. You have to get off the salt. And here, you need to get on diuretics. We're going to give you a prescription of diuretics to drop the fluid volume in your body down, but that's not what you want. But if you don't have courage or know these things, then you're going to be afraid,
Mhm.
right? So fear is the thing that drives most people. It's the fear of poverty, the fear of criticism, the fear of failure, the fear of illness, the fear of getting old, the fear of death. And those fears are not allowed in your being if you want to have a high quality life. So I
Mhm.
just said, no, I refuse to be afraid of any of these things. I just want to know mathematically what is the truth, right? I'm not going to go make any claims. I did it for me. I'm not telling you to do this at all.
Mm.
I know what I want to do, and I don't want anybody to do what I want them to do. I want you to do what you want to do because it's your body.
Mhm.
And so if I have keys that I can give to you that you can employ and put in a lock and unlock yourself from different things that are normal that people suffer from as they get older, it's up to you what you do with the keys. I can't turn the keys for you. I know
Mhm.
what the keys are and I can give them to you. And I know they're going to work for you, but you don't know they're going to work for you until you actually use them. And I love that because now we're not trying to get people to follow us. I want you to follow you and do what you want, but you have to have the knowledge, and I'm willing to share it for free, just like I am today. This is free knowledge. I was given this knowledge by simply being able to let my hair down and relax, go around the world, learn from people who had the knowledge, who had done the study. I never came up with any of these things. I simply made a commitment one day and I said, if I can be led to the people who know the truth, I will listen to them. If they look good and they are healthy people, I'm interested and I'll do it. I will do whatever it takes to be healthy because I was going to die at one point. It's like,
Mhm.
seriously.
Yeah. So, if a customer comes to you and does decide to work with you, what is their experience like? What are they buying as far as the products you produce? Are they, I mean, if they decided to do the saltwater thing, are they getting a special kind of sea salt that you
Yes,
direct them
yes.
to? Like, tell us. So, if I were to come to you and say, okay, I want to be the healthiest version of me I can possibly be, where do I start? What do I do? What's my customer experience with you?
Well, the first thing is you are going to experience a very gentle transitional thing, nothing harsh. You're going to be able to control exactly how you progress. If you take something too much too soon, you could maybe have a little bit of a health crisis, a healing crisis, and then
Mhm.
you might be a bit uncomfortable. We don't want that.
Mhm.
You're going to be treated with great respect where you are now. We're
Mhm.
not going to tell you to do anything radical at all. We're only going to share with you the things that we've learned that we know work for everyone.
Mhm.
And the reason I say it works for everyone, even though you're super unique and maybe you have many different symptoms that other people don't have because of your uniqueness, that's okay. But when you remove the problems that causes your symptoms, the symptoms go away all automatically.
Mhm.
And if I come to you and say, "Oh, well, you've got this symptom and that symptom, and here's the remedy for the symptom," that's not the approach because I
Mhm.
don't know why you might have that particular symptom. I just know that if you get your body to produce beautiful, clean, healthy blood with your bone marrow, that your
Mhm.
body's going to do a lot of wonderful work on its own, and you're going to gently start to get healthier.
Mhm.
We have very concentrated nutritional products, but they're all heirloom original, nothing genetically modified, nothing high tech. It's all
Mhm.
simple, natural, salt of the earth kind of things. One of the first products that changed my life entirely is called Oceans Alive. And the reason I called it that is because 71% of the water on the earth is ocean water. Much
Mhm.
of it is very contaminated, and a lot of it is not contaminated. But there's a thing that grows in the ocean called marine phytoplankton,
Mhm.
and it produces up to 90% of the oxygen we breathe. Most people have never heard of it. And there was a study done for 40 years between 1960 and the year 2000, where they studied the different species of marine phytoplankton. These are microalgae. You cannot see them in the ocean. You can't
Mhm.
visibly see them with your eye. And there's thousands of different strains. And in Europe, they did a study to find out what the usefulness of these things were. And part of that discovery was that two strains are very good for the human nutritional profile. And so they took those two strains and they began to grow them in a photobioreactor on land using real ocean water and real sunlight. And then they harvested it and they put it into this concentrated form. And we stabilized it naturally in 100 times strength ocean water that's certified pure. And all you do is just put that in your drink. And what it does, it makes you feel like the battery inside your body is getting charged up. And it sounds really simple and like kindergarten, but that's really what it is. And so I told people, I said, I don't know exactly the science totally. All I know is that when I took it within 90 days, I felt like I'd charged my battery up and it started the very first day. And
Mm.
when I would share it with people in California to start with, I would give them one tiny drop on the back of their hand and tell them to lick it off so they would feel how strong it was. It's very strong. And most people don't like the taste of it. So you put it in juice and then it tastes great.
Mhm.
But they would come back within 15 minutes and some of them would say, is this legal? Am I supposed to actually feel this? Because they felt bright, like they felt happy. I said, yes, it's totally legal. There are no stimulants at all. But what you just experienced was the broadest spectrum of nutrients all at once for the first time in your life, and that your brain is telling you, "I love that stuff. I want more." And so you do 17 drops a day is what the maintenance dosage is, and
Mhm.
that upgrades you continuously until your body's battery is fully charged. And then people report things like joyful mental energy and body enthusiasm. They just feel like, wow, that I love this stuff. It's like it gives you a strength that you didn't have before,
Mm.
and you can tap into it whenever you want. If you're a kind of person who's a high performance person, where you're having to use your brain very intensely on a computer program or a project, and you're
Mhm.
very physically active, you can do that 5 times a day. And so
Mm.
people would take 5 doses a day, and they said they got their 2-year project done in 6 months. Things like that were happening. And so we've had, obviously tens of thousands of people have
Mhm.
consumed this and to this day still do, but
Mhm.
still no one knows about it. There's 8 billion people on the earth and only tens of thousands now are aware of the power of this. So it's
Mm.
our job to get it out to the world now.
Well, I want to ask you to give everyone listening a tip, something they could maybe do today where they could be healthier tomorrow than they were yesterday.
Well, one thing you can start doing immediately without any product in your hand or spending any money or even just the tiniest amount of time is a thing called box breathing. So, box breathing, if you have a little device, there's a device I have, you clip it on your ear and you hook it up to your phone and you open an app called Inner Peace. And
Mm.
it monitors your autonomic nervous system, which is very real. Your
Mm.
autonomic nervous system has two different functions. It's either in sympathetic stress, which is to get your job done during the day, or parasympathetic, which is resting and digesting. And within 30 seconds of doing box breathing, that means you're going to breathe into the count of 5 through your nose very smoothly, nothing, no hard breathing or anything, and then breathe very smoothly out of your mouth to the count of 6. And just do that regularly. Keep it into the count of 5, out to the count of 6, and do that. And within 30 seconds, you are in your parasympathetic system, measurable. You do that for 5 minutes a day. And if you have a little bit of a lull during the day, it will recharge you because it puts you into parasympathetic, which is rest and restoration, right? Resting is restoring. And so
Mm.
that's something that I recommend everyone to do every single day. And if you can do longer than 5 minutes or more than just one time, 5 minutes at a time during the day, you'll see it'll really make you feel great no matter what's going on, especially if you're in a real stress day. It's super important.
Well, this stuff is so super interesting. I could talk to you for hours and hours. And I want to give you a chance before we move on to the next piece of the segment to share anything else about you personally or the business that we didn't cover that you really think we should before we go on to talking about the cause that you care about. So, is there anything else about you or the business that we really want to get in?
Mhm.
There's so many interesting things. I mean, I feel like this could be a marathon interview with you just because there's so many. I'm just very fascinated about this topic, and I bet everyone watching is too.
Mhm. Well, I think the main thing that I noticed that when I stood up and I took responsibility for every single thing in my life, I'm responsible for every thought I think. It doesn't matter how much I've been influenced by anybody. I can't blame them because they're my thoughts. And if I let them in, there is my thoughts. And I listened to some information that allowed me to stand up and go, okay, it's on me. I want to be responsible, and I want to learn everything possible about how that I can manage my existence by supporting my body's ability to get super healthy. And you
Hmm.
mentioned earlier about health covers every aspect: spiritual, mental, emotional, physical, financial, domestic,
Hmm.
environmental,
Hmm.
and your all your relationships. So a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. So make sure that every one of your links are strengthened as strong as possible.
I love that. And keep an eye out for the information below this video, wherever you're watching us. There are so many places now. And for the custom article about Ian, because it'll tell you how to find him, where his website is, how to reach him, the best way to have that next deeper conversation with him so that you can discover how you can get healthier every single day. Now we're going to go on to one of my favorite segments. We always feature a cause our guests care about. And so, talk for us for just very briefly about a cause that's close to your heart, Ian.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I found out about many years ago was a work that's being done by the Unstoppable Foundation.
Mm,
And they discovered that young girls in different parts of the world are left out when it
hmm.
comes to the educational system. And it's kind of by design, unfortunately. And when young girls grow up and become young women and they don't know
Hmm.
the way things really work, they can be taken advantage of.
Hmm.
And so they go out and they build schools specifically to get girls educated, to make sure they have an equal opportunity to learn the truth about how they should be conducting themselves and to have that opportunity to go to school, which they would never otherwise have. So it's a charity, and that actual foundation is so unique. The people who run it are already wealthy people. They don't need the charity for their own money. And when the IRS did an audit on them through the years, they came back to them. They said, every year we come to you guys, and we found out you put 100% of the money to the end user. You
Hmm.
actually put it out. You don't take any of it yourselves. And they said that's the first time we've ever seen a charity do that. And hats off to you guys. Really, this is a wonderful thing.
Well, I love that. And thank you for sharing a new cause with us. All right. Causes are wonderful and they just might help someone you know or might inspire you to give or volunteer for that one or just you remember to do something nice for someone. And so that's why we take a moment and talk about these causes that are close to our hearts because you just don't know what kind of good action or reciprocity it might inspire. So go out there and do something good for any kind of cause or just for your next door neighbor. So, moving on, I love to talk about books. There are books behind me, there are books all around me. I love books. So, I am always probing my guests for information on what is a book that inspired their personal life or helped them grow their business. I'm super excited about this one because we talk about this author all the time. We talk about some of his more popular books all the time, but Ian is going to bring us one that I hadn't heard of before. So yay! It's gonna go on the book list. So tell us about the book that inspired you, Ian.
Well, this is one of these books when you read it. Well, I just got it on Audible because I love listening to it on Audible. It's only a short book. It's like 5.5 hours total, where many books are, 100 hours.
Sure.
Uh, it is written by Napoleon Hill in 1938. and is called Outwitting the Devil.
I
It
never
was
heard
not published until 2011, 73 years later.
what?
Yep. And it
Oh
was
my god.
oh, it was way ahead of its time. And
Oh my
when you
god.
listen to it, you'll know why it was not published. And Napoleon Hill passed away in 1970. His wife had the rights to it in the estate. She also did not publish it in her lifetime. And some of their younger people in the family eventually published it. And it is a deeply common sense revelatory book that will change your life and is I consider a reference book. It's not religious or anything like that.
Mhm,
Doesn't deal with salvation or those kind of things. What it does, it gives you the knowledge about what to look for to make sure you don't get taken advantage of.
mm,
And only a tiny percent of the population is not being taken advantage of by the
mm,
tactics that are unfortunately all around us that influence us. And it's not, I don't blame anybody.
mhm,
My parents didn't know about these things. They taught me what they knew as best as they could.
mhm,
And I raised our children and taught them as best as I knew. But the sooner you get that book and the sooner you listen to it or read it and refer back to it and get those deep insights into your mind, the better off you're going to be.
I love that. Thank you so much. Now you're on a journey of writing a book. I know you said you have a longer timeline, but you're beginning to start on it, or what's the plan for your book?
This is where it gets really interesting because I started, I was told in 2014, Ian, you have to write a book. I went, okay, but I don't want to write a book to be some famous author. That's not the intention. If you write a book for someone, you want, especially when it's factual data, not fiction. Fiction is lots of fun. I'm not a
Mhm,
fiction writer, but I started writing the book in 2017 and I kept hitting roadblocks. And the roadblocks were inside of me. And I'm glad they were there because I realized I don't have the complete information yet. And
mm,
so I was writing it anyway, and I realized, okay, but now, and then every year, more information would come and displace the previous information. And it kept going like that right up until 2023.
mhm,
And at the end of 2023, starting in December the 28th, after 20 years of doing this research and experiencing all the transitions going into 2024, my brain did this really weird algorithmic thing. I can't even explain exactly how it worked, but it was a reflective thing where I went back and I looked at everything I had learned over the last 20 years, and all the pieces of the puzzle started to connect with each other. And
mhm.
all of the final data came together, and I was blown away. I was like, wow, am I ever glad that I didn't write that book or finish it or publish anything until now? I had to be very patient and wait for those keys to come in. And now I'm ready to write the book. So I'm actually going to use the framework because a book has a framework. I'll be able to use the same framework we worked on for many hours and now write a definitive book. And they're going to be a series of short books that get right to the point so that
Mm,
you can immediately access the information without having to go on a long wandering around, finally getting to the point thing, because it is extremely definitive. No drifting at all. It's straight to the point, and I'm really excited to get this book out for everyone now, so that they can get the information that I was given, and I just want to give it to people.
I love that. So stay tuned, keep your eyes peeled, keep watching, keep tapping on Ian's shoulder. Hey, how's that book coming? When do we expect to see it in print? So that should be super, super exciting. Ian, it has just been so interesting, fascinating, and wonderful to have you on the show. I hope you've enjoyed being here as much as we've enjoyed having you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jessica. I really appreciate the work you're doing and taking your time to make sure people get access to the things that make the biggest difference.
That is awesome. So, if you're watching, and I know you are, and you're sharing, we're thanking you. But most importantly, hey, maybe you're an industry expert. Do you know how to improve someone's personal life? Can you help them grow their business? Do you have something important to share? Then you should tap on my shoulder and see if we can get you scheduled on the show. Reach out to us, introduce us to the people you know that can really make a difference in someone's life or in someone's business, and introduce them to us so that my team and I can get them on the show. So, before we say goodbye, I always ask if you could share one final piece of information or inspiration, a final thought to say goodbye to everyone as we go.
Well, I want everyone to take responsibility and build their personal enthusiasm. Enthusiasm drives joy, and joy is your strength. So find
Mhm,
as many ways as possible to get really enthusiastic about being alive on this earth. Count it a privilege to be here,
mhm,
and make yourself more valuable by just building enthusiasm with all the different categories of your life, and love everyone around you as much as you can, even if they don't love you.
mm. I love that. And I always say, as I close the show, you know who I am, your host, Jessica Koch. This has been another Profound Professionals. And as we say goodbye, remind you always to be kind to yourself and be kind to each other out there. Bye, everyone, for another one. And Ian.